bookends, a few violent weeks at home and abroad. For more, let's turn to Ron Hosko, a former assistant director at the FBI. Ron, good morning.
Good morning.
Is there anything more that we can be doing to stop attacks on soft targets like this, Ron?
Well, look, we expect a lot out of our law enforcement and our intelligence communities, but this is very much a shared responsibility. So part of that expectation goes back towards all of us, the citizen, the family member, the friend, the coworker, to look for warning signs. Without that, law enforcement will fail because there's no way they're going to catch every incident like this.
At this point, it still hasn't been determined if this was ISIS or if this is a group inspired by jihadist ideology. But you have to wonder, does that really matter at this point?
No, I don't think it does. Of course, it's going to matter if somebody is inspired by ISIS. Here, we heard initial reports of the multiple shooters, of somebody yelling Allah Akbar. So, of course, we go to ISIS. That seems to be our default. But these incidents are often much more complex. We've seen it domestically here, where mental illness seems to play a large role. Here in this case, it takes me back to Newtown with Adam Lanza, who was also collecting for decades lists of mass shooting events.
Mm-hmm. Ron, how do we adjust to this, or how has U.S. law enforcement been adjusting to this kind of incident, or can they?
They are learning from each and every one of these incidents. They share intelligence broadly. And one of the things they've learned is not to unduly alarm the public when they don't have sufficient information to focus in a particular area. So the intent is not to raise fear, but to raise awareness so that people are attentive. They're thinking about what their options are if a mass shooting or an active shooter event happens involving them. Run, hide, fight, those words, training for active shooters. But we cannot be everywhere at every time and prevent each and every one of these incidents in a land of soft targets.
All right, Ron Hosko in Washington this morning. Thank you.
Panicking, they were crying and screaming.
Duke University senior Tamina Stoll is in Germany for a summer internship. In between earning college credits and hitting the mall, she could have very easily found herself dodging bullets.
It was just crazy. It was so crazy. A few minutes later, I started to hear sirens in the background, and a helicopter appeared, and people were confused. Nobody really knew what was going on. There were still people inside the mall, and yeah, the sirens just wouldn't stop.
As the bullets rang out, Tamina pictured a scenario in which perhaps she could have been one of the injured, or even worse, one of the deceased.
Had I decided to go there for the third time, like 10 or 15 minutes earlier, I might have been dead right now.
Hours later, Tamina is still trying to make sense of it all.
It was just terrifying. I feel like I still haven't really processed it.
She was born and raised in Munich, and tonight, her family there helping those in need by providing a safe haven for several German families affected by the terror.
We also took in a couple of families, and two of them already left about maybe half an hour ago. I hope they're safe.
And even though Tamina feels safe, she understands the threat still exists.
As long as the police isn't able to neutralize the assassins, it'll be very difficult to go to sleep.
Disturbing new details tonight about the 18-year-old gunman who opened fire at a popular shopping mall in Munich, Germany, killing 9, including 7 teenagers. Authorities believe the shooter studied mass shootings in this country and may have hacked a Facebook account to lure victims to his rampage. Here's ABC's Alex Marquardt.
New revelations tonight about the attacker's dark obsession with mass shootings. Authorities raiding his apartment and finding a book on school shootings, including Columbine and Virginia Tech. The first images of Friday's attack showing the gunman outside a McDonald's, firing at passers-by. Authorities now investigating whether he hacked a Facebook page and lured people there with promises of free food, before shooting 9 people dead and killing himself. Tamina Stoll was on her way to the mall when he struck. The Duke University senior ran back to her grandmother's and filmed the chaos from the balcony.
It was so surreal. I immediately started calling all of my friends and family. I had to know that they were safe. I didn't know where my brother was for the longest time, but he was safe too. I can't even find words. It's just horrible.
The gunman now identified as an 18-year-old German-Iranian student born in Munich. The authorities ruling out terror ties and saying he received psychiatric care for depression. 7 of the 9 murdered were teenagers, going to the mall like any other teens around the world. At least 10 of the wounded are in critical condition tonight. German Chancellor Angela Merkel called the attack a night of horror and vowed to get to the bottom of the gunman's motive.
New questions tonight about a controversial police shooting. An unarmed therapist who was trying to help a man with autism. That man's family speaking out tonight. Here's ABC's Marcy Gonzalez.
The man sitting on the ground is Arnaldo Rios Soto, a 26-year-old with autism. Tonight, his family telling ABC News he is utterly traumatized.
It's just so sad that he couldn't walk down the street with his caregiver.
Soto's therapist, Charles Kinsey, lying down with his hands up, is heard on this video explaining the object in Soto's hand is not a weapon. Officer Jonathan Aleda shooting Kinsey in the leg. The police union saying the officer was trying to protect Kinsey and was actually aiming at Soto, thinking he was a threat. Kinsey's attorney questioning that claim.
If I'm an officer and I make a mistake and shoot an individual, the last thing that I'm going to do is go and throw some handcuffs on him.
Aleda releasing a statement saying in part, "I took this job to save lives and help people. I did what I had to do." Tonight, Officer Aleda is on paid administrative leave. And now a second officer is suspended without pay as city officials investigate whether he fabricated part of the police report.
We're following the latest developments in the
Marcy,
deadly Munich shooting. We want to show you some of the chaos that unfolded and a warning. The footage is disturbing. German police say there's no evidence or links to terrorism. The 18-year-old gunman killed 9 people near a crowded shopping mall and a McDonald's before taking his own life Friday. We've learned that he was apparently obsessed with mass shootings. Seth Doan has the latest from Munich.
An eyewitness caught the moment the shooter opened fire outside a Munich McDonald's, sending people fleeing. It's not known why the 18-year-old gunman started firing, but at this point, police believe he was acting alone. The German-Iranian man was heard yelling from the roof of a parking lot, "I'm German." First I thought someone had thrown firecrackers, this neighbor said. Then I looked down and suddenly see someone who shoots into the crowd. 2,300 police from across Germany and Austria responded, and Munich was put on lockdown as hospitals prepared for victims.
We got one of the most critical injured patients.
Dr. Peter Bieberthaler is the head of the trauma department at Reichslehrerser Hospital.
We tried to stop the bleeding, but the bleeding was not a problem. In this case, the traumatic brain injury was a problem because there were several bullets right into the brain.
His patient did not survive. The death toll stands at 9 victims. Today, police raids are taking place in the search for clues. This shooting follows a separate incident here in Germany on Monday, when a 17-year-old Afghan asylum seeker wielding a knife and axe wounded 5 people on a train. Islamic State claimed responsibility for that attack.
Disturbing new details have emerged about the gunman behind Friday's shooting in Munich. We've learned the 18-year-old man was mentally troubled and obsessed with mass shootings. German police haven't found any links to ISIS or any other terror group. The shooter killed 9 people near a McDonald's and shopping mall Friday. CBS News security consultant and former FBI assistant director Ron Hosko is in Washington. Ron, given these new details on the shooter, and now authorities believe that there are actually ties to the massacre which happened 5 years ago in Norway on the same day in 2011, what's the focus of the investigation today?
Well, it is to run down all these potential rabbit holes and separate what is speculation from what is real. What is real is something he's touched, websites he's visited, things he's written about his life, to try to get an understanding into the mind that goes mad like this. This is not a thread that runs through mass shooting events. This is a rope that runs through mass shooting events.
You know, Ron, we've also learned that he managed to hack into someone's Facebook account where he actually posted something about a free giveaway or a special offer on discounts to lure people into the area around this Munich McDonald's and the mall. And he also reportedly made death threats over a video game account network. How do these online warnings or these red flags play into the investigation and into preventing future attacks?
Yeah, it depends on who sees them, Rena. Who sees them writing, who sees him engaging, who sees him or knows about him hacking, and what did he do? In some cases, these folks are very discreet. They are starting to tick louder and louder, and nobody is really aware. Nobody's really paying attention, or they discount it. So it depends on somebody seeing it and then doing something about it.
The shooter apparently, according to eyewitnesses, shouted, "I'm German," during the massacre, and we know that he was German-Iranian, and he was apparently bullied throughout school. Does this suggest that we have a greater problem, not just in Germany or Europe, maybe even here in the U.S., as nations are dealing with immigration and the refugee crisis? Maybe these folks have an identity issue. Is there something we can do about this?
Right. We have been hearing that both domestically and abroad about how new people to our world, our society, are integrated into it. And whether they feel like they're a part of the whole or whether they feel like they're a discrete group and they stay off to themselves. So I think, you know, this is going to be an ongoing struggle with the refugee crisis that is around the globe right now. Governments desire, ideally, to know who is coming in, have an understanding of what threat they might pose, if any, and how they fit in. How can we integrate them in so they do feel like they're part of us, and avoid this sense of xenophobia that is too prevalent.
Well, this rampage is just really the latest in a series of deadly attacks across Europe, and just the second in Germany over the past week. Really, Ron, what can authorities do to step up security to try and prevent these future attacks? Or is it just there's nothing you can do when you have a lone wolf-style massacre?
Yeah, I've said for a long time, this is a challenge for all of us, not just law enforcement, not just the intelligence community. Those folks are understaffed. They are under-resourced to do their job with maximum effect. That's on a day-to-day basis. So it really depends on us as citizens to see something, say something, communicate concerns, make law enforcement aware. But I do think that as these threats continue, as attacks continue, whether Europe or at home, our legislators are going to have to look at, have we done the right thing to support our law enforcement in terms of resources, in terms of pure numbers? Do we have enough people on the street to impact this the right way?
Well, much of the nation is being smothered by what forecasters call a heat dome. From coast to coast, temperatures are well above 90, even above 100 in many places. In the West, dangerous heat killed a 12-year-old boy hiking in Phoenix. The heat is also fueling wildfires. Here's Carter Evans.
Flames broke out along a busy freeway north of Los Angeles at the height of the heat wave. This view from an LA County fire helicopter shows fire engines arriving on scene.
Look at that. That is some ingenuity right there. He's got one of those big nozzles just driving along, trying to put that fire out.
But temperatures up to 110 degrees and strong wind gusts made it impossible for firefighters to stop the massive wall of flames. Hundreds had to evacuate, including Curtis Bell.
And it was just like in the movies, for fire and smoke around you. It absolutely looked like the apocalypse.
Firefighters tracked the flames from the air as they ripped through miles of drought-dried brush. LA Fire Captain Daniel Curry.
This is just an example of a dry plant, and you can just grab it and break it, and you can see there's just no moisture in this whatsoever.
That goes up like that.
Right.
As these flames continue to grow, firefighters are looking forward to cooler
Tourists
temperatures
in the heart of American democracy are feeling monumental heat.
Very hot, very hot. Looks like it's going to be record heat, and we was not hoping for that when we come up here, but, you know, these people selling the water, that's really been a help.
High summer temperatures are mixing with an extremely humid air mass moving eastward, in many places resulting in dangerous triple-digit heat indices. New York is keeping people cool with sprinklers.
He was 70-some years old.
And this Tennessee man's father died on Thursday. His home had no air conditioning.
We should check on our relatives and friends and families and neighbors with the heat. It's tough out here. It's hot.
Now, most people are just not used to this type of heat. Here in Washington, the temperatures have been in the upper 90s, but with 50% humidity, it feels like it's 105 5 degrees. Menacing conditions for the most vulnerable, infants and the elderly.
How did you meet
Rena?
George?
Errol Burnett in Washington.
I was sitting one day out in the front yard, smoking a cigarette and drinking, and he was walking his dog, and that's how I met him.
When you first met him, describe what kind of communication you would have with him. What kind of relationship, for lack of a better word, did you have with him?
I told him that I do yards and stuff like that.
And did he give you any work?
Yes.
Can you give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury any idea how long you've known George?
A few years.
Years?
Yes.
Describe your relationship with George at this point.
What do you mean?
Well, are you just doing work for him, or is there
We're
something?
friends.
What kind of things have you done together?
We worked out, stuff like that.
When you go over there, what's his relationship with Shauna like? Good, bad, what?
Bad.
Okay. What do you
arguing?
What are they arguing about?
All kinds of stuff.
Like
money.
what? Did George ever tell you about any specific complaints he had about Shauna?
Yeah, she spent too much money.
Does there come a point in time where you have to, or you are asked to do something at that second house related to the divorce?
Yeah, kill Shauna.
And when George first says to you something about killing Shauna, did you believe him?
No.
Describe for us the best you can what it is, the nature of the conversation. What happens?
He offers me $1,000. I tell him, nah.
You tell him no?
Yes.
Why do you tell him no?
Because I don't really believe him. I think he's...
Think he's what?
Blowing hot smoke, man.
You think he's just blowing off some steam?
Yeah.
Is there some thing that changes at some point?
What do you mean?
At some point, does he say something to you that causes you to believe him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Raise the price up.
What did he raise the price up to?
$5,000.
Was he going to hand you $5,000 as soon as it was done, or was there some plan on how to pay you?
He was going to pay me when he got the money for...
Station 82, Battalion 18 moves to Fire Station 126, Battalion 10 moves to Fire Station 82, Battalion 18 moves to Fire Station 126. NG 123, did you copy?
Copy. I see.
Station 135, engine 587 moves to Fire Station 135. Engine 16, Gladstone Street from Sargberg Avenue.
Donald Trump tonight seizing on a controversy brewing for Democrats after thousands of leaked emails showed Democratic Party officials possibly plotting against Bernie Sanders in his race against Hillary Clinton. And as ABC's Mary Bruce reports, a response tonight from the Sanders campaign.
Tonight, a major snag on the road to party unity. WikiLeaks releasing nearly 20,000 internal DNC emails, including some that appear to show efforts to undercut the rise of Bernie Sanders. In one, a communications official considers pushing the narrative that Bernie never ever had his act together, that his campaign was a mess. In another, a top official wonders, can we get someone to ask his belief? Does he believe in a God? Adding my Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist. The response? An amen. From the start, Sanders voiced concerns that the scale was tipped in Clinton's favor. It was even the butt of jokes.
Remember all those states like Wyoming, where you beat me by a lot, but then I still got most of the delegates?
Oh my God! That was so stupid! It was rigged!
I know, it's so rigged!
Tonight, Sanders' supporters are furious. His campaign manager telling ABC it's a clear example of the DNC taking sides and that somebody has to be held accountable. And tonight, still no response from Sanders himself. But this is exactly the kind of tension that the party was hoping to avoid here. Now at the convention, less than 48 hours away. Tom?
Not a good story going into that convention. All right, Mary, thank you. And tomorrow on This Week, a big show and a big interview. Bernie Sanders with George on the eve of the Democratic Convention. And we will have complete coverage of the Democratic Convention all week. World News Tonight, Nightline, and Good Morning America, all live from Philadelphia. And then a network special every night at 10 p.m. Eastern and gavel-to-gavel coverage on our online.